If you've been debating if you should take a protein powder or a collagen powder, then this video is right for you. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be comparing protein powder and collagen powder to let you know which one is right for you. In particular, I'm going to let you know which is best for building muscle, supporting our skin health, as well as supporting weight loss. But first, hi, my name is Katey. I'm a registered dietitian and certified personal trainer. My goal with this channel is to help you learn more about nutrition, fitness, and wellness so that you can be your best, whatever that looks like. I also love to do product reviews, so if you have any topics or products you want me to cover, just let me know in the comments below. All right, so let's get started. What is collagen powder and what is protein powder? While both protein powder and collagen powder do provide protein, they're actually quite different from one another, and each one has their own pros and cons. So first, let's talk about protein powder. Protein powder is exactly what it sounds like. It is a high protein powder that comes from a food that is also high in protein. The most popular protein powder is whey protein, and this is a protein that is derived from milk during the cheese making process. However, plant-based proteins are also growing in popularity as an alternative to whey, and the most popular types include pea protein, soy protein, hemp, as well as combination plant-based protein powders, which I would say is the most common. The great thing about protein is that they provide a ton of protein in a single serving, with most of them providing about 20 to 40 grams per scoop. Usually protein powders are meant to be consumed after a strength training workout, but sometimes people also add them to different meals just to make sure that they're getting enough protein in case they can't for that one. So for example, adding it to a smoothie or their oatmeal or things like that. Generally speaking, especially for whey protein, they are considered a complete protein. And what complete proteins are any type of protein source that has all essential amino acids. Now, an essential amino acid is simply any amino acid that we cannot make ourselves and have to get through food. If you are getting an animal-based protein powder such as whey, it's absolutely going to be a complete protein. When it comes to plant-based protein powders, most companies try to make sure that they add a blend to make sure that all of the protein sources they add will allow for it to have all essential amino acids, but it is important to just check the label just in case. Now, when it comes to essential amino acids, there are 9 essential amino acids. And if you're unsure if your protein powder is going to have all of the essential amino acids, most protein powder companies, the good ones, are going to have an amino acid profile on their bottle, and you can just check to make sure that they have them by looking for the following amino acids: histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, tryptophan, threonine, and valine. On top of making sure that your protein powder has all essential amino acids, remember that animal-based ones like whey protein will definitely have them. But if you are looking for a plant-based protein powder, you do need to make sure that it has enough of the amino acid known as leucine. And this is a branched chain amino acid that is really, really important for muscle building. Some companies will add leucine to their product as an additional source, but you do want to make sure that you're checking the label. Ideally, the label will say that it has about 2.5 grams to upwards of 3 grams or more. Now, when it comes to the actual composition of a protein powder, they do vary a lot because companies like to make their own formulations, but usually there are a few general ingredients that are in majority of them. This usually includes the protein source, so whether it's from whey protein or it's a plant-based protein, some type of flavoring, so for example chocolate or vanilla, usually some form of a stabilizer and an emulsifier to make sure the ingredients come together, so for example using xanthan gum. Most often protein powders will also have some form of a sweetener added to it. This can be either a natural sweetener or an artificial sweetener. So some examples of natural sweeteners would include things like stevia or monk fruit or Reb M. And artificial sweeteners can include things like sucralose, Ace K, etc. And then finally, there will be additional ingredients depending on the company itself. Because of the composition of protein powders, they tend to be a bit thicker and a little bit heavier. And they usually need to be mixed really, really well with water or milk. And oftentimes, I would at least say that protein powders usually have a very noticeable flavor. Ultimately, when it comes to thinking of a protein powder, just think of something that is really, really high in protein per serving and is also a complete protein, most often. Okay, so now what about collagen powders? Collagen powder is obviously a powder as well, but it is not made from the same ingredients as a protein powder. Collagen powders are usually made from the collagen-rich tissues of either cows, fish, sometimes pig, but not as often, or other animals. These include things like skin, tendons, and other collagen-rich tissues. The thing about collagen is that it is the most abundant protein in our body, and it does contain almost all of the essential amino acids with the exception of the amino acid known as tryptophan. Now, the one thing I do notice that a lot of people try to say about collagen powder is that because it's not a complete protein, it's not a good protein source, which is not necessarily the case. We've done so many research studies to show that as long as you're getting enough amino acids throughout the day, that's what truly matters. And I wouldn't rely on a collagen powder or a protein powder as my main protein source anyway. Another difference between collagen powders and protein powders is that collagen powders have a different amino acid profile, and they're oftentimes much lower in leucine, which is that amino acid I mentioned earlier that supports muscle building. However, collagen powders are significantly higher in three main amino acids: glycine, hydroxyproline, and proline. And these three amino acids are crucial for the structural components of different parts of our body, for example, our skin. I would say that collagen powders tend to be a little bit more standard in terms of their ingredients, and they're pretty straightforward. That being said, some companies do add additional ingredients for potential benefits, but I would say the mass majority of collagen powder companies really just stick to having collagen powder as their main, or if anything, their only ingredient. And most of the time, if you look on their ingredient label, all you're going to see is hydrolyzed collagen peptides. All this simply means is that the collagen molecule has been broken down into smaller pieces so that it's more readily absorbed in the body. Now, because it doesn't have a lot of extra ingredients added to it, I find that collagen powder is really convenient to add to a lot of different beverages. So for example, water or your coffee. When it comes to the amount of protein that are found in collagen powders, this ranges quite a bit. On average, I would say most collagen powders usually have about 10 grams of protein per serving. However, some companies have as low as 2 grams and other companies have as high as 20 grams. So for example, Vital Proteins, which I have done a review on before. Now, this is a lot of information, so I'm going to put on the screen quickly a comparison chart so you can at least understand the brief differences between the two, and you can always refer to this back later. So if we take a look at the chart, we see that protein per serving for a protein powder ranges usually between 20 to 40 grams, while a collagen powder has about 2 to 20 grams. In terms of whether it's a complete protein, most often protein powders are going to be a complete protein. However, some plant-based proteins may not be, so just make sure you check the label. Collagen powders are not complete proteins because they don't have the essential amino acid known as tryptophan. Protein powders tend to be high in leucine, particularly if you're having a whey protein powder. However, plant-based protein powders really depend if they add in extra leucine. Collagen powder is not high in leucine. In terms of proline, hydroxyproline, and glycine in their products, but not a really high amount, while collagen powders are high in proline, hydroxyproline, and glycine. And then finally, in terms of additional ingredients such as flavorings, emulsifiers, and sweeteners, typically speaking, protein powders do tend to have these ingredients added to them. However, collagen powders, it's pretty rare to find these in them. Okay, so now that we understand the basic differences between a protein powder and a collagen powder, now let's discuss when it is appropriate to have a protein powder or a collagen powder depending on what you're looking to get out of them. So which is better for muscle building, protein powder or collagen powder? The main thing you need to know about building muscle is that in order to build muscle, you can't just have a bunch of protein and hope that it gets converted into muscle. That's not how it works. So in order to build muscle, what you need to do is you need to do strength training exercise that puts your muscles close to failure, meaning that you can't do many more reps after that. This ends up resulting in little tiny micro tears in your muscles. And then after the workout, your body sends amino acids to the muscles to help rebuild them bigger and stronger. And over time, this results in more and more muscle mass. This process is highly inflammatory, and this is in a good way, and therefore it needs quite a bit of help to heal. So reasonably, we would assume that we need quite a bit of protein in order to do this. And we need to make sure that we're getting the right amino acids in order to support that muscle rebuilding. So a couple things to consider. First, getting the right amino acids is ideal. Second, getting high amount of protein is vital. So you want to make sure that you're not only getting a high amount of protein, but the right amount of amino acids within that protein. And based on what we just discussed, you would be correct in assuming that taking a protein powder would be a better option than taking a collagen powder for muscle building. Now, we have a ton of research that supports taking protein powder in terms of muscle protein synthesis or muscle building. However, there actually is some research comparing protein powder and collagen powder and determining which is actually better for building muscle. There was a 2023 randomized controlled trial that compared whey protein powder, collagen powder, as well as a placebo in terms of building muscle. Within the three groups, one group was given 30 grams of whey protein powder, one group was given 30 grams of collagen powder, and the placebo group was given 30 grams of a no-calorie placebo. All participants had no significant differences in terms of their protein consumption from the start of the study, and I absolutely love that they controlled for this because not all studies do. So you can really assume that any improvements that would would be seen would be solely from the additional protein from either the whey powder, the collagen powder, or probably not, but the placebo. In this study, participants did a series of barbell squat exercises, and they actually took biopsies of the muscle to see if there was growth. And they also took other blood tests to analyze various other changes. For example, they looked in the blood to see if there were differences in amino acid levels from taking the different supplements. From this study, we see that those who took whey protein powder had significantly higher levels of leucine in their blood, while the collagen powder and the placebo group did not have high levels of leucine. And remember that leucine is very important for muscle growth. With that being said though, those who took the collagen powder had higher levels of glycine, hydroxyproline, and proline, which remember those are those 3 amino acids that are important for structural components in our skin, joints, and so on. And when they compared muscle building, the group that took whey protein powder had significantly higher increases in muscle protein synthesis compared to the collagen powder group as well as the placebo group. And the collagen powder group did not have any significant increases in muscle protein synthesis. And the researchers discussed that the probable reason why the whey protein group had higher muscle protein synthesis was due to the higher leucine content, while the collagen powder group had a much lower amino acid profile, particularly from branched chain amino acids such as leucine, that would not stimulate sufficient muscle protein building. Interestingly, they also did tests for connective tissue building after a workout, and they found that none of the supplements led to significant connective tissue building. And this is a little bit surprising because collagen does have those 3 main amino acids that are important for the structural components of connective tissue. Though the researchers did warn that more research is needed, and the fact that this is only based on taking a collagen powder or whey protein powder after a workout. So it's not necessarily to say that collagen powder in particular wouldn't lead to improvements in connective tissue growth, but it doesn't in this particular study, especially after this type of workout. So in summary, this study found that if you take a whey protein powder, you're probably going to have much better results in terms of building muscle than you would from taking a collagen powder. Even though the protein content is exactly the same, it really comes down to the differences in amino acids. And other studies have also come to similar conclusions. So based on this, if you are looking to specifically build muscle, I would definitely opt for a protein powder that is high in leucine versus a collagen powder, which will provide you with some protein. It may help a little bit, but it would not probably have the same degree of results as if you were to take a whey protein powder. Okay, so now which is better for skin health, protein or collagen powder? The most important thing that you need to keep in mind when it comes to your skin is that it is made up of a lot of protein. And the 2 main proteins found within skin are collagen and elastin. Now, elastin is exactly what it sounds like. It's elastic, like an elastic band, and this helps to give our skin elasticity, or that bounce that we want, and helps us look youthful. On the other hand, think of collagen as the structural system. It helps provide structure and support for our skin. And the more collagen we have, the more structured our skin is going to be. So when we are really, really young, this is why skin looks so youthful and strong, and there aren't any wrinkles or sagging because there's so much collagen within it. As we get older, our natural collagen levels start to go down, and this is when the degradation of that structure start to happen. So the skin isn't as strong, it's not as supple, you start to see sagging and fine lines and wrinkles and things like that. So collagen is those support beams that keeps the skin up and healthy. And since the skin is mostly made up of collagen, you would logically assume that taking a collagen powder would be best for our skin. And that does seem to be the case, although I will warn that we do still need a lot more research on collagen powders. Like I mentioned earlier, collagen powders are very high in 3 main amino acids: glycine, hydroxyproline, and proline. Now, one thing to keep in mind is these are non-essential amino acids, meaning our body can produce them itself. However, research is starting to show that if our body has higher levels of these 3 amino acids, there does seem to be something there in terms of promoting connective tissue growth, in particular with our skin. Now, I've done quite a few reviews on collagen powder before, and I'll put the video links in my description box so you can see those later, but I'll give you a quick overview right now. To date, the majority of research does support taking a collagen supplement, particularly hydrolyzed collagen peptides, and improving our skin health. For example, a 2023 meta-analysis, which is considered very high quality research, found that supplementing with a collagen powder led to significant improvements in skin hydration and skin elasticity. They also found for the most part that the source of the collagen powder didn't matter so much. However, the most popular varieties are bovine, so coming from cows, or from marine sources, so for example, fish. Another research study found that supplementing with collagen peptides led to significant decreases in transepidermal water loss, allowing for the skin to stay more hydrated over time. And this is compared to not taking a collagen supplement at all. As well, there have been lots of other studies that have found and discussed the benefits of collagen powder and have found promising results with taking a collagen powder in supporting different parameters of our skin. Now, of course, there are limitations with taking a collagen powder, and I do want to discuss them just for a second. A lot of the studies that are out there right now have a high degree of what's known as heterogeneity, which means that a lot of the studies are very different from one another. So when we try to compare them, it's not really an apples to apples comparison. Also, some studies do have really small sample sizes, so it would always be nice to have larger sample sizes and a lot more people to look at to see if it would apply to a larger population. Another downside with a lot of the collagen powder studies out there is that they don't look at other confounding factors that may affect our skin health. So for example, someone's diet, exercise, whether they smoke, and of course this can affect skin health. However, that being said, there have been so many randomized control trials and meta-analyses that do tend to lean to support taking collagen powder for skin health. At this point in time, the research really leans to yes, it does seem to support skin health versus it not working at all. Now, the big question really is whether or not taking the same amount of protein from another source would lead to the same improvements in skin health, but there really just isn't a ton of research out there. But what I will say is that there does seem to be something in terms of raising our glycine, hydroxyproline, and proline levels and supporting collagen production in the body. If you are struggling with your skin health, there are a couple things that I would keep in mind. First of all, it is natural for our skin to deteriorate over time and not look as youthful as it once did a few years ago. With that being said though, some things that you can do to support your skin health would definitely be to make sure you're getting enough protein in general, because if you get enough protein, then you are going to be able to produce those non-essential amino acids that do support collagen synthesis. Whether they're going to be in high enough amounts to actually lead to increased collagen building beyond what our body's already doing, we don't actually know at this time. So will a collagen powder help? Potentially, and yes, the research does seem to support this, but it's not necessarily a guarantee, and I don't want you to take a collagen powder and think that you're all of a sudden going to look 20 to 30 years younger, but it may help a little bit. Other things that you can do to support your collagen health would be to make sure that you're getting enough vitamin C, you're eating an antioxidant-rich diet, you're not smoking, and you have a good skincare routine, and also you're sleeping enough. Okay, so now which is better for weight loss, protein powder or collagen powder? The first thing we need to do is discuss the difference between weight loss and fat loss, because they are not the same thing. When we're talking about weight loss, this includes any form of weight loss. So that could include loss of fat, of course, but also muscle mass, bone mineral density, water loss, things like that. When we're talking about fat loss, we are specifically talking about losing body fat, which if we have too much body fat, it can be harmful. Most often when people say they want to lose weight, what they're actually talking about is wanting to lose body fat, because losing muscle mass, losing bone mineral density, losing too much water, these are all not good things for our health. But when it comes to losing weight, the ultimate thing that we need to achieve is known as a calorie deficit. And this simply means that you are burning more calories than you are eating. And this can be done in quite a few ways. It can be done by eating fewer calories, it can be done by exercising more, or it can be a combination of both, which is what I always recommend. And like I mentioned, when we lose weight, we don't necessarily want to lose muscle mass. A lot of people that have dramatic weight loss will usually see a decline in, yes, their fat mass, but also their muscle mass. And this is usually done when someone is not eating enough calories, particularly from protein. They're also doing way too much cardio and not enough strength training exercise. So the best way to prevent muscle loss while you are trying to lose weight is to preserve it. And how do we preserve our muscle mass when we are in a calorie deficit? Well, the best way to do that is to make sure that yes, you're doing strength training, but also that you're eating a high protein diet. And the thing is you technically don't need a protein powder or a collagen powder to support weight loss or to get enough protein in your diet. The best thing you can absolutely do is make sure that you're getting majority of your protein from whole food sources. And I always recommend that first. And then if you want to take extra protein on top of that, then you can. Now, in general, research has found that when you have a calorie deficit, it's ideal to make sure that you're getting a high amount of protein to compensate for any potential muscle loss. And usually most people will need between 1.4 grams per kilogram per day to about 2.2 grams per kilogram per day. And for those of you that are in America, this is about 0.63 grams per pound per day to about 1.0 grams per pound per day. And this will likely help prevent any muscle loss while in a calorie deficit. So if you feel like you can get enough protein from just your diet, then that's great, and don't feel pressure to take a protein powder or a collagen powder. However, some people may need to take a little bit of extra protein to help them. Now, like we talked about earlier, if you are trying to preserve or build muscle mass, it's best to have a protein powder because it has that high leucine content and other branched chain amino acids that are going to support muscle building. And there is a lot more research on protein powders in terms of supporting weight loss versus collagen powders. And majority of the research out there does support taking, again, a higher protein diet, whether that's from food or also a protein powder. But when it comes to collagen powders, there really just isn't enough research out there that I feel even comfortable talking about, because most of the studies that are even available are so poor quality that they're not worth mentioning. And they just had a lot of flaws. Ultimately though, it does seem that taking a protein powder is probably your best bet when you are trying to lose weight and preserve muscle mass, because it has such a higher amount of protein per serving than a collagen powder would. And again, it has those differences in amino acids. On top of that, protein powders tend to be more satiating or filling because they usually have other components to them. One, they have, again, that really high protein amount, but they may also have additional macronutrients such as fat and maybe a little bit of carbohydrates that take longer to break down. And this can help you feel full longer and prevent you from overeating or, snacking throughout the day. With that being said, I actually do think collagen powders can be a part of making sure that you're getting enough protein. The reason why I really do like collagen powders is because they're flavorless and you can just easily add them to different things. Particularly, I really love adding collagen powder to coffee. I don't even taste it. And it's just an extra way to get in a little bit of extra amino acids without really thinking about it too much. So what I would say is definitely focus on getting most of your protein through your diet first. And then maybe if you want to, and you really need a lot of protein, then maybe consider a protein powder. But you could also consider taking a collagen powder if you don't want a protein powder, or you just want to sprinkle in a little extra protein throughout your day. Okay, so what is the overall conclusion about protein powders and collagen powders? So when it comes to protein powders versus collagen powders, it's very important to understand the differences because those differences lead to different results. Protein powders have been around for a very long time and are really ideal if you're trying to build a lot of extra muscle or you're trying to add quite a bit of protein in your diet in a quick and efficient manner. Collagen powders are newer, but they are still a decent option, especially if you're trying to promote connective tissue growth, particularly for supporting your skin health. One thing I want to point out though is that at the end of the day, both protein powders and collagen powders are processed supplements. They can support your health, but they are not a whole food, and it's always important that you focus on getting whole, nutrient-dense foods. The reason why is, in particular with protein, whole protein sources are chock full of different nutrients. Of course, they're high in protein, but they're also usually a good source of iron, B vitamins, and different minerals. These also take a lot longer to digest, so they're going to keep you a lot fuller than a protein powder will or a collagen powder will. So always, always, always please make sure that you're getting most of your protein through whole food sources first, and then you can opt for a supplement after that. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want me to cover any other topics or products, just let me know in the comments below. And if you did enjoy this video, I would love it if you would like and subscribe. Your support helps my channel grow more and helps me reach more people like you. And I'll see you in the next video.